So jazz pianist Sibusiso Mash Mashiloane has been crowned King of Jazz at the Mzansi Jazz Awards this weekend. His fifth album, that's Ihubo Labomdabu, scored the prize for Best Contemporary Jazz Album after garnering about 4 nominations. For a sense of what it takes to get this right, let's bring in Sibu himself, who joins us now via our video link, fresh from his Mzansi Jazz Awards triumph. And Sibu, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for chatting to us on the AM Report. First things first, congratulations are in order for this amazing feat. But I wonder, this is an album that had no vocals, just piano alone. Of course you're excited, but did you expect this?
I'm still like, first, Ayanda, thank you very much for having me, I'm still like overwhelmed, and there's some sense of hope, because, like you said, this is vocals. There are no vocals in the album, which means it required the listener to be more attentive, and because usually from the country we are so much used to vocal music, So, but I'm happy that Ihubo Labomdabu was able, to make it, because the album itself captures our story as Labomdabu. That is that especially that comes from our community, and also coming from Mzansi Jazz Awards, which is like an important award that solely recognizes jazz from early heroes. I mean, when you watch that award, you saw that it takes us back to Ababu Mkize, all the greats that have played a big role in shaping the music, So, and also it recognizes the current, which is their 5th anniversary, So to me, like, it means a lot, Like I said before, Ihubo Labomdabu captures all sorts of life scenarios, because I'm Nkuma Ekas, and Nkuma from a village, from a community, a singing community, So when I recorded this album, I was just continuously thinking and reflecting back to my communities, For example, I wrote songs that Ihubo Lasekai, like when I'm at home, what do we sing, and what sounds like at home, basically, and then imagining my situations, at home, imagining how we are at home, ingani dlala, bukwini, the uncertainties, and obviously and then also it offers threads of hope, especially with what we are faced with now,
Right.
So I think people also had time to listen, because it really required a lot of listening, and also it is a therapeutic music, and hence I felt, I think also it is what people need the most, because if you can't, I guarantee you, Ayanda, you cannot listen to that album and remain the same, especially if you avail yourself, and then you are open, because there is that calmness, because when I recorded this album, I was in that state, I was in the lockdown, no gigs, and then just within the nature, just hearing Solo Angelana, where I stay, Sotegwin, so hearing the nature. So by the time I narrated this music, I narrated the stories in a music format, already I was capturing all these things,
Yeah.
So I'm very much thankful.
I was really captured by the title of the album itself. I mean, Amahubo, to translate Ihubo, that's a psalm. And I guess many people might want to know who are Labomdabu. Can you tell us a bit more about the story behind the title?
Ihubo, the origin is Amahubo. Basically, I first heard Amahubo Mangfigala KwaZulu Natal because I'm originally born at Bethal, So I first heard Amahubo. I was first actually exposed to Amahubo by a great friend of mine, Umbuso Koza, honoring Mamu Princess Makoko, And Amahubo are known as music that was telling stories there, community stories on what was happening in their societies, So Labomdabu of us is us, songs of our origins, So that's what Ihubo Labomdabu means. It's the songs of our origin,
Lovely.
So
you've mentioned also that you've had to dig very deep for this particular album, and I think that's because in part it's just piano, as mentioned, and not vocals necessarily. What does that actually mean when you say you needed to dig deep? Deep to where kanjani nobani?
Like I said, I had to first, okay, I believe that God, who's above everything, used me in this album because this was not part of my 7-year album plan, my 7-year release, because I started in 2016 releasing albums every year. And then my goal was for 7 years I'll be releasing albums, and which is now, this one is the 5th one. A solo piano was never part of the plan. And this came, how this one came is, I was sitting on the piano one day practicing, and then I realized something strange happening, in my practice. And then I was like, let me just press record because I practice in the studio, right? So I pressed record and I started playing, and I realized music flowing. Hence, as I give thanks to God, and this solo album what really comes from God, which is our source, and obviously using my authentic voice that is a demonstration of the people I grew up surrounded by and the music I've been exposed to, which aligns with my belief that our socialization in our home influences how we as artists compose music and how we hear music and how we process music. So Ihubo Labomdabu is a culmination of music at home, which was mostly South African jazz, Abo Brahiu, Abdullah Ibrahim, Babu Tete Mbambisa, the traditional music, including Amandebele, where I come from, there are a lot of Amandebele. So there are all those influences. And when I came to KwaZulu-Natal, I was exposed to Indlamu, to Umpakang. So there are all those influences there in my playing or in my imagination of home, which is what I believe when I leave the country or when someone who's not in the country listens, they will quickly know this is how music sounds like in South Africa. This is how, because it is all about narrating our stories, So this album was looking within carefully. Luckily, there was no pressure from gigs, from being a busy life, that one was used to, So this time around, I was very much in a calm state.
Absolutely. You speak about the socialization that comes with putting together the kind of music that you do. I find it interesting that you've mentioned already in our conversation that Ubuyekasi, you're from a township. And this is, dare I say, not typical of a township-bred individual playing piano at the level that you do. It's something you actually started at the age of 17 in the church. At least for you, there was that kind of, if you like, environment to allow you to take this instrument seriously. But how do we expand that for people perhaps who don't have the kind of opportunities that have come your way because of your involvement in the church?
A piano is just an instrument, People can use all forms of instruments, They've done it before, Hence, yes, a piano is just a vehicle, but what matters is what is within an individual. So we shouldn't be limited by these instruments, If kukhona umakhoyane, wherever umakhoyane wenziwe elaleni, elaleni, If kukhona any kind of abantu abanye basika isihlahla, and then I think there's this kind of a tree that you are able to cut and put holes and blow, and meaning by doing that also one is able to release the music that God has given them. So in other words, it's not about the instrument, An instrument is just a vehicle, but it's all about God using us from wherever we are and whatever instrument we are exposed to.
Absolutely. Well, nothing else left to say from me outside of congratulations once again. We hope it's one of many to come in the future, at least, at the very least, for our enjoyment and relaxation. Sibusiso Mash Mashiloane, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. And once again, big up to the work you've been able to do.